Okay, so last video I just actually filmed 2 minutes ago and just turned the camera back on and I'm going to finish this Mountain Dew, damn it. And I'm going to tell you all a drunk asshole story. So last night at work I didn't have any drunk assholes per se. I had a guy I didn't know why he was there. A guy that botched hanging himself and was in a neck brace and was not happy with the whole rigmarole that he had to go through. You know, like, God damn it, why am I still here? You know, you guys are just pissing me off. And then I had one guy that jumped off of a 6-story building and broke his ankle. And when he was asked if he was suicidal, he defended his actions by saying, no, it was hardcore parkour. And he still got an evaluation because, that's an iffy one right there. So, yeah, none of those really are drunk asshole stories. But I got one for you. Okay, there's a guy. Last week, we're going to call him Ned the Dumbass. His name's not Ned, but I changed names because of, HIPAA ethics and whatnot. But Ned the Dumbass, he gets into his car. He's drunk. And he starts trying to drive down the road. And he smashes into the side of a bunch of his neighbors' cars. And he happens to live very close to a park where a lot of bystanders could see him smashing into cars down the street, just sideswiping, scraping them. And so they run over and pull him out of his car, and they hold him down for police. They restrain him. And they say that he was trying to run away when they stopped his car and all that. But during whatever happened there, he did get kind of beat up. Who knows whether it was the tackle or something that happened afterwards, By the time that I see people, a billion different things could have happened to do what I see on them, but I know what the police report said, okay? So he's there, and instead of giving him up to the hospital in order to put him through detox and everything, which actually takes longer for somebody to get out of. If they go through the detox programs, if you go to the clink and you go to the drunk tank, it can actually be just a day, even half a day, and then you can get released to somebody or yourself. But if you actually get put into a detox, then you're fucked for a while longer, at least a 72-hour hold, but sometimes way longer than that with involuntary commitments. So, strangely enough, the police, rather than citing him and giving him court dates and all that, they stayed there because they wanted to bring him in. And finally, they realized that they were not going to get him in on their own shift, because when he came in, he blew a .467, which some of you may be in middle school, took a home ec class, and they try to teach you about alcohol in that class and drugs and stuff, and they would say, if you have no tolerance, if you blow a .5, you're dead, and you blow .4, you're going to be comatose, Well, when people do have tolerances, they blow that stuff all the time. It happens every day. So, he still had his wits about him. And one of the things he realized was that he did not want to give the police officers his blood or his urine. Right? Now in the state of Colorado, where I happen to live, if you refuse to give the officers your blood when they request it, and they get a phlebotomist in there to do it specially for them, then you will lose your license for 2 years. And that did not deter him from keeping to not wanting to give up his blood, even to the point of pulling out his own IV. And he did not want to give them a urine sample either, even though he'd already given blood and urine on intake. He changed his mind about wanting to give it to the police officer. But that's okay, because due to HIPAA laws, even though blood and urine is already in the system in the hospital, the police can't get those records or those readings from whatever is tested. They're not allowed to have that. You're allowed by law to have health care without the police knowing stuff, because that would keep people from seeking help when they need it. If they had to give all of the results from their piss tests to the police. So whenever somebody has their blood taken for the police, the previous vials of blood don't count. It has to be a phlebotomist, special, and they call them from some other part of the hospital, and it's not just the nurses that are in the ER, right? It has to be the one that's trained to do it for the police, and keep with the chain of custody, special, yada yada. So that gets refused, and it pisses off these police guys. They're just wanting to be done with it, so they handcuff him to the bed rail, and they go to their cars to start typing up the reports with the computers in their cars, right? But they're right outside the hospital. And they're typing up reports because they want to get it to where he's got a court date and everything's set, and they can just cite him and put it in his personal effects so that he can just read the receipt, and learn, oh, I've got a court date, when he gets his personal effects back. So he's handcuffed to the bed, and he decides to grab the handcuffs and go and then start to yell, "Hey! These handcuffs are too tight!" And everybody could hear the click, 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 click. Everyone. He did it to himself. Well, those policemen were outside the building, So we go and tell him, sorry, the police are not in the building. And he says, well, maybe I'll just tighten these myself and cut my circulation off and then sue you guys. To which I replied, it doesn't really help your case when you announce your plan at the top of your voice for everyone to hear. There's a person right over there writing down what you just said in his guard report, Duh. So, the police come back, they cite him, they put his citation in his personal effects, so they know he'll get it. They tell him what his court date is, and all that. And they take their handcuffs back and leave him there in that room. But he's still on an alcohol hold. They call it an ETOH hold. That's the chemical. It's like calling it a poisoning. Anyway. So he's on an ETOH hold until he sobers up. Right? But he's got a shiner from whatever happened when the when the neighbors restrained him. Whatever happened, he's got this big shiner. So they want to do a CT scan. But this guy, when he gets in there for the CT scan, now he's got to piss. Now he wants to piss because he saw right next to the CT scan room there was a restroom. And he thinks he can get away with just going right to the restroom. Well, the CT tech is trained to not take people to that restroom, and so he's saying he has to pee, he has to pee, he has to pee, because he's been holding it for a while. And so they have a jug in the room just for that, so that people don't spring it in the middle of being transported to some other part of the hospital where they think that guards won't enforce the rules of you must give a urine sample if you're going to pee. We're going to collect it. They'll collect it anywhere. Everyone's trained for just that situation. So he's got this jug, and it was very lucky that the tech was able to grab it before he could throw it or spill it or anything, because people, they get weird about this shit. So the tech closes it up, right, and wheels it back to his room, puts the jug in his room. And I turn to some of the nurses. I say, "Well, are we going to test that urine? Or is that good for the police?" And they say, they didn't even order urinalysis on this guy. It was just blood anyway. And we don't want his urine. As soon as he's below 0.9, he's free to go on his own. Or 0.09, sorry. So, about an hour later, the guy's probably still a 0.35, but he's sober and still refusing things because he thinks that he's going to outsmart people, He was lying about being drunk at all, just completely trying to push it off onto other people and complaining that he wanted all of his his mouse above his eye and his other bumps and bruises checked out because he wanted to sue his neighbors, right? Because what they did to him was wrong. About an hour after his CT scan, it comes back that his head's okay. Nothing from that mouse is actually bleeding on the other side of his skull, so he's medically cleared to leave as soon as he's sober or somebody comes for him. And his wife comes, and she goes in there and she talks to him, and she tries to find out everything that's going on. And this is actually the part of the story that made it notable for me, that I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. She comes out of the room and comes over to me, and she asks me, "Did he tell anyone that he had a heart attack 3 months ago? Did he tell the nurse? Did he tell the policeman? He had a heart attack 3 months ago." And I told her, "Ma'am, I can't tell you anything that he told the nurse. That's between him and the nurse." So she goes back into the room, and I'm just in my mind, thinking, you enabling bitch, okay? He's not under the influence of some blood clot from a heart attack or something that's changed his mind. That's not what put the drink in his hand and forced him to drink and forced the keys into his hand and forced him to drive and then forced him to lie about drinking and driving to the police officer and then made him refuse any tests and then made him try to make his handcuffs too tight on his own wrist in order to cause a problem. No, he's just a manipulative bastard, and he deserves a wife like you. Also being manipulative. And when he was medically cleared, she was allowed to take him home. I didn't see the story in the news. Didn't see pictures of cars smashed at all. So I'll have no closure for this, except my ramble on YouTube, letting everyone know that that kind of enabling is wrong. When you have that quote unquote come to Jesus moment in your life, the worst day in your life, the worst thing for someone like that is for people to go along with the delusions and all the lies and all the conniving. The best thing that his wife could have done would have been to leave him there. What can you do? People are gonna be people.